Putin has threatened the West, threatened us with nuclear attack, particularly the UK, for the last 1,000 days. Today is the 1,000th day of this conflict. This is more posturing because Putin knows that the ATACMS and Storm Shadow, which hopefully our government are going to unleash pretty soon, could have a existential impact on his operations, because he knows with his 50,000 troops arrayed in forming up points to try and counterattack into Kursk, to retake that sovereign Russian land, that actually ATACMS and Storm Shadow, could decimate them. And if there is to be a ceasefire, hopefully early next year, Russia will certainly be on the back foot.
9:54, great story, Hugh. All our commiserations on that. Vladimir Putin has changed Russia's nuclear doctrine. Now Russia could consider using nuclear weapons if it's subject to a conventional missile assault on which it is supported by nuclear power. That's relevant this week. Of course, Hamish de Bretton-Gordon is a chemical weapons expert who is a commanding officer of the UK's Joint Chemical, Biological, Radiological and Nuclear Regiment. Hamish, good morning to you.
Hi, good morning.
This does change things. So what he's saying is, and this is potentially posturing, you'll have to tell us what you think of it, that if a conventional weapon supplied by the West hits a target in Russia, he will regard that as an act of offensiveness such that a nuclear response could be viable. Is that right?
Well, it might be right, but it's not changing Russia's nuclear doctrine.
Yeah.
That has always been the case. I wrote a paper exactly on this for the American government with the ex-MP Bob Seeley last year. And let me just quote the key line from it. At an October 2022 press conference, Putin, citing his doctrine, said Russia could use weapons of mass destruction, nuclear weapons, to protect its sovereignty, territorial integrity, and ensure the safety of the Russian people. No mention of conventional or being supported by nuclear countries. And of course, Ukraine attacked into Kursk months ago with British tanks and currently hold about 300 square miles of Russian territory.
So nothing has changed then, in your view?
No, absolutely. Nothing's changed at all. And I think people need to be really robust about this. Putin has threatened the West, threatened us with nuclear attack, particularly the UK, for the last 1,000 days. Today is the 1,000th day of this conflict. This is more posturing because Putin knows that the ATACMS and Storm Shadow, which hopefully our government are going to unleash pretty soon, could have a existential impact on his operations, because he knows with his 50,000 troops arrayed in forming up points to try and counterattack into Kursk, to retake that sovereign Russian land, that actually ATACMS and Storm Shadow, could decimate them. And if there is to be a ceasefire, hopefully early next year, Russia will certainly be on the back foot. So he's doing everything he can to try and frighten people like Starmer into not supporting Ukraine as they should do. There is no change in Russian nuclear.
And Starmer, just to finish the point there, Starmer needs to be robust, get the Storm Shadows to Ukraine so they can make a difference before Trump arrives. So a ceasefire that may be negotiated in the early part of next year will be a beneficial one.
Entirely. Unfortunately, when it comes to military decisions and they're in the hands of politicians, they like to make them at absolutely the last minute, which is the worst thing for making military decisions. So Starmer prevaricating or whatever he's doing is making things worse. And of course, Putin is trying to get in there and seize the opportunity to maybe convince Starmer not to allow Storm Shadow. But it's the wrong thing. As I say, there's no change in Russian nuclear doctrine. And remember, he and all his close associates have threatened this virtually every day, and it's not happening. And the other thing, just to finish this off, with Storm Shadow and ATACMS, I believe that Russia's tactical nuclear weapons are unusable because they only have a range of 400 miles. They'd have to be moved right to the Ukraine border to fire them. And a Storm Shadow missile is exactly what you require to take out a launcher way before it fires off its nuclear weapon. Now, Putin knows that, but he is doing all he can to threaten people like Starmer and other Western leaders in Europe to not continue to support Ukraine in this endeavour.
It's been very good to speak to you so we get some clarity on this subject, Hamish. Thank you so much for taking the time.
The recent Russia's attacks, very massive combined attacks with all kinds of missiles on peaceful cities and energy and critical infrastructure, have the only objective is to intimidate the Ukrainian people, to break the will, to plunge Ukraine into darkness and cold. They also demonstrate that Putin doesn't want peace. He wants war. He wants war with Ukraine. He wants war with the rest of the world. He wants war with international order, rule-based order, and the UN Charter. The answer to this is strength and unity of international community. The mission, we are not engaged in its coordination. Okay. At the table now, the venue for. So if we could not dwell upon that, and also for us, the word appeasement means that there are some who thinks that it is possible to talk to Putin. To listen to Putin. Putin wants to be talked to. For him, it's only about talks. It's never about peace. So he sees these attempts as a weakness. And what we need now is not weakness and appeasement. We need strength. So the appeasement is the antonym towards strength. Support to Ukraine and to international organizations. That this is Putin's. We should not be afraid of Russia's threats. Instead, we should take decisive actions to counter the threats coming from Russian aggression. His intentions, and it is clear to our partners who continue to support us. You know, we do confidence in American people, which have demonstrated their sincere support to Ukraine, and we have had all these years bipartisan support in the United States for Ukraine and our fight for freedom and democracy. So, as you know, President Zelensky had several contacts with President-elect Trump, and we are working on continuing our contacts with the new administration. So the next weeks and months will demonstrate how we will work together.
The events of this weekend generally, how do you think that?
So I think it's too early to say or to be afraid. We should wait and see what will be the actions, and then to ensure that multilateralism remains effective and relevant to all its members. So I think it's really too early to be scared.
Putin has brought 11,000 North Korean troops to Ukraine's borders. This contingent may grow to 100,000. While some European leaders think about, some elections or something like this at Ukraine's expense, Putin is focused on winning this war. He will not stop on his own. The more time he has, the worse the conditions become. Every today is the best moment to push Russia harder, and it's clear without certain key factors, Russia will lack real motivation to engage in meaningful negotiations. And we must do everything to end this war fairly and just united strength of Europe. I urge you not to forget this, and do not forget how much every blow and every threat from Russia must be met with firm sanctions. For 1,000 days, It has been crucial to radically reduce Russia's ability to fund its war through oil sales. Oil is the lifeblood of Putin's regime, and the shadow fleet of tankers is what keeps it alive. As long as these tankers operate, Putin continues to kill. Strong sanctions are essential. I thank each of you, thank you, Roberta, again, and thank each of you who supports our people, our resilience, our ability to restore safety even after the most devastating mass attacks by Russia.